If you think back to your most successful relationships or even your most successful hookups, I bet the majority of those experiences have been with girls that you met through your friends or through your friends of friends, aka your social circle. But now, if you're like most guys, you find yourself with a social circle that just doesn't produce enough high quality leads to really be a viable dating option for consistent results. Maybe you've turned to online dating, cold approach, and we all know that those efforts are difficult. Maybe you've heard dating gurus talk about the benefits of having a social circle and building a social circle, but that advice maybe has felt overwhelming or very difficult to actually accomplish. Well, if that's you, you'll want to tune into this episode where we talk about the definitive guide to building a social circle, even if you were dropped off in a new city tomorrow. Obviously, you can do this in the city you already live in, or this advice would apply if you're totally starting from scratch. I also interview one of our community members who recently moved down to a new city, and he's successfully set up a social circle in just a matter of a few weeks, maybe a month and a half or two. And we're going to get the exact step-by-step guide from not only myself, but from him on how he did it. And these are easily applicable tactics and advice that you could start using tomorrow. So tune in. It's going to be a good one. You're listening to the Inner Confidence Podcast, formerly called the Leverage Podcast. We help you unleash the most attractive, charismatic, and confident you in order to attract quality connections, both personal and romantic. My name is Robbie Kramer. I've been a coach since 2007, and I've helped over 1,300 people level up their dating and social skills. My mission is simple: to help you crush the dating game, build an epic social life, and attract your ideal partner. If you're new to the show, I highly recommend you download my free dating protocol. It'll help you optimize your first dates, take all the guesswork and planning out of the equation. And I like to connect with my listeners personally, so to grab a copy, send me a message on Instagram, Robbie_Kramer. All right, if I drop you in a new city and ask you to start a new circle with more girls from scratch, quickly describe in 5 to 10 steps. That's a good question, my friend. All right.
That's a great question.
The first thing I would do is ask myself, who do I already know in this city, right? There's probably someone. And how cool are they? What information can I extract from them? And I would do that from a place of value giving and not just taking, right? So I'm looking for value from them, but I wouldn't want them to think that they were doing me a favor. I would make sure there's an exchange there. So I would offer to take them to lunch or grab a drink, right? And I wouldn't come at it from like a very, obvious, I need this information type of thing. It'd be like, hey, let's catch up. Like, I just moved here. Would love to see you. It would be a lot of kind of like I'd run a date. It's like, I'm not going to start escalating right at the bat and like asking them a whole bunch of questions unless they start volunteering that information. I'm going to ask them about them. I'm going to get to know them more. I'm going to like build the relationship, and then I'm going to start asking stuff. And it's not like a huge deal if I were to just start asking stuff, because people like answering and giving advice and recommendations. So that's one thing. So I'd lean in who I knew. Then I would also look on, any sort of like internet communities, right? I would look to see like where I could find other people that were sort of in nightlife. I'd look at other Instagram accounts. I might go on Meetup, even though that's probably not a great source of information. And I'd look to see like, are any of these events cool? Do any of these people seem like people that, might have some information or might be doing some cool things that would help me to get into that scene? I would also look to see like what are the top places in the city, like the top bars and the top clubs where the cool kids hang out, the ones that are the hardest to get into. I'm going to check on the reviews on like Google or Yelp. The more negative reviews a place has, typically the better, because it means a lot of people didn't get in and they're mad. And it's always the fat, ugly people that didn't get in. So you don't necessarily go off positive reviews. You actually want to go off negative reviews when it comes to bars and clubs. It just means there's a tougher door. So I'd look at that. When going to those places, so not just that, but I would day game, of course. And part of my day game efforts would be mentioning that I just moved to the city and asking them like where the cool kids hang out. And I'd literally say that. I'd be like, yeah, I just moved here. You look like a cool kid. Where do all the cool kids hang out? And I would...
Sorry to interrupt, but do you like change your approach with day game? Like, are you like not direct
No, I would do everything the
something.
same. I would be direct, and
Okay.
and I would, rather than the like, I'd do the probably like, where you come from, where you going, and she'd say blah blah blah. I'd be like, oh, that sounds like a cool place. I just moved here actually. I was living in Kiev before, had to leave because of the war, and that would obviously probably start a whole different conversation. But I would just kind of leave that there and be like, so you look like a cool kid. Where do the cool kids hang out? And then if she's like, I don't know, I'll be like, oh, I guess you're not a cool kid. Come on, you got to sell yourself better than that. At least pretend, right? So I'd banter off it, and I would get that information. Like, how much do you party? How much do you go out? Like that. You could even ask that if, I mean, I'm trying to think if there's a way to use that if you've lived in the city for a long time. I'm sure there is. Funny way to spin that off, but you get the idea, right? I'm actively asking hot girls that I day game where they like to go, because they're going to be my best source of information for that. Much better than Google and much better than all the stuff, right? I would also ask, when I figured out which places were cool, I'd go there, I'd talk to the bartenders, I'd shake a lot of hands with the bouncers. I would tip the bouncers like when they really weren't expecting. I'd give the bouncer like a 20 bucks. If I knew the place was cool, I'd show up before there was a line, but when the bouncer was there. So typically the line's going to start at like 9:30 if the place in most cities, right? And so I'd probably show up at like 9:15 when there was like a minimal line, and I'd shoot the shit and I'd talk with the bouncer, and then I'd literally give him 20 bucks and be like, thanks, man. Hook me up next time you see me. Right. And that's going to go such a long way, because I'm going out of my way to like make that connection, and I'm giving him money. And I'm going to do the same thing with the bartenders in that cool place. So next time I come back, I'm going to have status. I'm probably going to get straight in. If I recognize that guy, I'm also going to ask him like what nights he works, what are the best nights to go. Right. And then I'm literally giving him money for the like, first of all, he's not talking to anyone because he's just like bored doing his job. And now I'm shooting the shit with him. I'm giving him something to do. I'm asking him questions, which he's going to answer, that are making him feel like he's in the know and he's someone of value. So I'm like hyping him up, and I'm giving him money. So like, that is such an effective strategy. And I'm doing the same thing with the bartenders. Obviously, if they're really busy, I'm not going to fuck their brain and ask them all those questions when they're like trying to serve other people. So that's another reason to go earlier. And you get a chance to connect with the people in these venues. So those are all things that are like laying the groundwork. From there, I would probably tap into like those global game Telegram groups too, and just see if there's any other guys that are in the like, dating scene who are actively approaching. My guess is there would be no one of value, but oftentimes some guy will come out who is a cool guy, but who just has anxiety. And I would be filtering for that, right? Like, I would rather link up with the guy who's cool, but who has anxiety, and I could help him with his anxiety, and he'd be a valuable wingman because he's cool and he's not going to slow me down, but he has approach anxiety, and I could still use him as a great wingman to like pull him in. I would value that guy over the like awkward guy who's willing to approach every girl, but he's just fucking weird. He's going to kill my brand.
I have a comment here.
Yeah.
So in these groups, what you can do is just post a picture of one of your social events, parties, whatever, just you with a bunch of girls, and say, hey, I'm planning to start we have this social circle party thing going on. Who wants to join me? Just drop me a DM. And a bunch of guys are going to text you, and you can filter them.
Yeah, I like that strategy. So I would also try to figure out who the promoters are at these different venues. I would do my best to like get in somewhere. And then if I saw a guy that looked like a promoter, I would go over to him and like effectively validate him, right? I'd be like, dude, I see you're here with like a bunch of beautiful women. I know that's not easy. First off, congrats. And second, these different, like, are you a promoter, or how'd you pull that off? Most guys would be willing to share that information depending on your vibe. So that would be something. I would also look to see if I could potentially get a job as a promoter at one of those places. And the act of going to find that job would probably connect me with the right people.
These different.
And I would look to see like, okay, how can I?
These different.
You're going to learn a lot from that.
These
information gathering activity. That would be the things that I would start with, and then from there, I would look to befriend as many hot women as possible. Not try to escalate on them. Find out what would provide value for them. Build that relationship, and then I'd attempt to go out with those girls all the time to build a relationship, and then be able to, bring girls to places. And once I have a group of like a few girls, it unlocks everything else. You might be able to.
Where are you meeting?
Online.
Okay, online. Yeah,
Day game, online, going out. I would meet those girls actually going out. That would be better. Like the girls you meet out are girls that like to go out. The girls you meet day gaming or online, we don't know if they like to go out or not. So,
I noticed that like when I day game, like a lot of the girls are super shy and they're not the kind of girls like I vibe with. So like if I do 5 approaches, maybe 2-3 girls, like 2 girls I would vibe with, like 3 of them would be super shy and not really my type. But when I go at night, like 4 out of the 5 girls, I'll go talk to. Like I really, I like hanging out with them.
Those are social girls, so that's always going to be the case. Let's hear from Nick, because he's doing some interesting social circle stuff. I've been pushing on everybody down in San Diego. What's up, Nick?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Good to see you all. I've been kind of leaning into social circle recently. I don't know. I think I've met a couple of you guys. For those of you I haven't talked to, I just moved out to San Diego about 2 months ago, and I've been trying to build things up, basically starting from scratch. I joined the kind of group, I think, end of July, I believe it was. And that was really just because I was like anticipating my move to San Diego. So I wanted kind of just some support in terms of how to go about, again, building like a social circle and kind of establishing a good social life. So I'm pretty new to the program. It's really don't have too much of a background in this stuff, to be honest with you.
So, yeah, give us a quick little recap of what happened when you got to San Diego. I think it'll be valuable for the other guys.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I moved to San Diego, like I said, around the end of August. I moved here for graduate school. That was kind of the reason for the move. In terms of what happened, a lot has happened. But in terms of, I guess, like social circle type stuff, my basic situation right now is that I've got a pretty solid group of about, I'd say 8 or 9 girls that I'm able to bring out with me. Though I'd say in any given night, I'll probably bring like 4 or 5, maybe 6, kind of depends.
How'd you meet them?
That was all just through grad school, honestly. Some of them are in my cohort or then friends of them. So it's 2 of the girls, they like went to undergrad here. They are obviously new people. So that's kind of where the main group has come from. And then also girls I met in other grad programs, 2 of them who I wouldn't consider part of that core group, but are also kind of like, I guess, on the fringes.
What's the program for? What kind of?
It's psychology. That's
okay.
Right.
Nice.
It's psychology.
Very relevant. Amazing.
Exactly. I mean, to be honest with you, like it's kind of like it's interesting to me and it's my intended career, but it's also, I guess, part of my setup, if that makes sense, because I knew going in that would kind of be the case.
Yeah.
So in my cohort, there's 27 people, I believe, 26, 27, and there's 4 guys. So it's like obviously
good.
And I mean, like realistically, like it is grad school, so I'd say there's really only about 10 of the girls that are really like only about 10 I'd say really go out like that. But I'm the only guy who goes out, so it still kind of works out, right? So
how'd you position yourself as the guy who's like going to take them out? You were just like cool with them in class and chit chatting, and do you go out, do you party? Just a lot of schmoozing and small talk.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was very intentional trying to, I guess, put myself in that kind of frame, like right from the start, if that makes sense. So that was kind of, just being a cool guy, just being normal. To be honest with you, a lot of people in graduate school especially at this level, like they're very academic. They're kind of a bit introverted, which I am too to some extent, but I'm still fairly talkative, So just like everyone's sitting in silence, I kind of get a conversation going, things like that. And then, it kind of just naturally came up. I was asking, like I said, a couple of the girls are from here. So I was like, oh, where are the best spots to go out? Do you like to go out? Just getting some conversation started that way. And then the other big thing I think that's pretty actionable in this regard is like inviting them out like a lot, if that makes sense. So when I first got here, like the first couple of weeks, everyone was pretty like busy, lots of different things going on. So I'd invite girls to things that I knew I wasn't going to go to. I knew they weren't going to be able to go to on like a Friday or a Saturday, just to get that to be kind of like a normal sort of thing. And I got personally good results from
invite.
it.
That's great.
Yeah. I got good results from it. Like, for example, there was this like boat party thing that was happening over Labor Day. And that I did actually end up going to, although it wasn't with the girls. It was just with a buddy of mine, a guy I met here. But I knew they weren't going to be able to go. I still invited them. And they were like super appreciative. They're like, oh my gosh, thanks so much. Like, keep up this energy. I can't make it, but we'll go out some other times.
I fucking love that. Those are the types of things that like, like, I don't know, those sorts of strategies I just find so interesting because it's like, you know, you're not going to go, but you know, by inviting them, you're going to get so much social proof and you know, they're not even going. It's fucking genius. I love it.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, because in that particular case, it was like a boat party thing for Labor Day. So the tickets were like kind of expensive. There was no way I was going to be able to get anything like comped at that point. And I knew the girls weren't going to pay. So it was just kind of like, I'll invite them. I know they won't go, but it still looks like cool and high value. And then I get an Instagram story out of it. So,
I mean, so much of my game was just like talking about cool shit. Like I was, you know, like I realized that after I went to Burning Man a couple times, I realized basically every girl you meet in the party scene is interested in Burning Man, interested about talking about Burning Man. And if they think you can take them to Burning Man, then they're like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And I'm like, fuck, I could have been doing that even before I went to Burning Man. Like if I just,
no, this is something I've been like really trying to work on. It's like, once you realize how powerful it is, it's like very eye opening. It's like it really does work. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of the brief overview. Other things as well. So about 3 weeks ago, I saw an ad on IG for a club downtown is hiring like for, I guess, all different positions. It was like an open hiring event. And so I pulled up there, and that was a really weird experience, to be honest. But in the end, I ended up talking with one of the managers there, and I got a marketing host job. So now I'm working there as a promoter. I've only been out 2 nights because we only work nights where they don't bring in like an independent, like outside group. So I worked this past Saturday and then the Friday before that, if that makes sense, which is kind of good because like it gives me balance in the sense that I can pull up on certain nights and work, but then I can also like go out and do other things and have a social life. So that was kind of
what does work look like?
Yeah. So this is kind of the thing I was going to ask about is how to leverage this access that I now have, because I got the job, right? And I know I'm in a good position here, but how do I make the most of it? So in terms of what the job looks like, I'm working on the street team. So I'm approaching people with tickets. Actually, I have the tickets right here. Tickets. I basically try and convince them to come into the club. So basically my model is I get paid per head. I get $4 per girl, $2 per guy. If I get 30 heads, I get a bonus. And the past 2 nights or both nights I've worked, I've gotten the bonus, but I can tell like it's pretty precarious. Like in the sense that like the first night I did really well. I think I got 38 and I was like pretty pumped. I'm like, okay, this is going to be easy. But then the second night I only got 31. Right. And I approached a lot more. So I can tell like it seems like the limiting factor isn't necessarily the amount of approaches I'm able to do, but more so my conversion rate. And so that's one of the things I'm going to want to be working on. But I guess I should say, like, I recommend to other guys in the group, like, if you can find something like this, I highly recommend it. Because like in a single night, I got well over 100 approaches, you know what I mean? In like a couple hours. So
yeah, the reps from that and the social skills, like, you know, instead of selling yourself, you're selling the club, but you're still selling yourself. Because if you're not cool and fun, they're never going to go to the club, right? So it's a killing 2 birds with 1 stone sort of thing. Are you doing it? And like, is there other promoters working that same night, working the same streets?
Yeah. So there's like a lot of kind of aspects to this. So, but yeah, in terms of breakdown, so basically I'm out on the street. We pull up around 9:30 technically, although, I mean, one guy got there like 11. That's the whole thing. It's all kind of chaotic. That's the part of the thing. But, so technically we pull up at 9:30, we work till about 12:30 because the doors close at 1. Like they won't let any more people in. And so basically, like, you know, there's like 5th Street where like all the clubs are and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of we're on 4th Street. We're like right next to it. It's Bloom, like the night that's like EDM type music. So basically what we do is they send us out down to like around the area where all the other bars and clubs are and try and convince people to walk over to the club. And so I think the guy I work for, he was saying there's, I believe 7 technically seven promoters who work this street, but on any given night, usually there's only about 4 that actually show up.
And for
he said, so
just for Bloom or for
Just
all
for
the
Bloom.
clubs? Oh, okay.
Wait.
Interesting.
what do you mean for all the clubs? Yeah, like there's other promoters walking the street. Like there's a bunch of other people
Right.
for the other clubs and stuff.
But there's 7 of your technical coworkers for Bloom.
I have 7 coworkers
Okay.
on this street with me. There are other hosts who are in the club or that I see like by the door. And that's actually one of the things I was going to ask about, because I can tell that like, they've been around a while. They kind of are more established, but they don't really interact with us, to be honest.
Do you guys have like a designated turf area? Like this is my, radius of place and you stay away, or it's just a free for all?
No, I mean, it's kind of a free for all. Like that's one thing. So the first night I showed up, I didn't actually work. The first night I showed up, they were just like, all right, pull up to the club. We'll kind of go over things with you. You can like see the venue and stuff, because I hadn't been. So the first night I went, before I started working, I actually, like, this wasn't what they intended to do, but I ended up kind of shadowing one of the promoter guys, Joel. And I was just kind of talking with them and stuff like that. And he was super cool. He was kind of explaining how things go. And basically it seems like it's kind of like everyone's on pretty good terms. So there's not really a need for like an explicit turf type of thing. Everyone kind of just stays in their own lane.
Yeah.
And honestly, like there's so much volume and stuff and so many other like promoters like doing things, like it doesn't really doesn't make a difference. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if I'm like accurately kind of describing it, but I guess one of the main things I'm kind of working at right now is how to like leverage this access, I guess, to like actually meet other like industry people specifically. Because like I said, so like we pull up outside of the club around 9:30 and then like we get our tickets for the night or whatever. And then we basically just go. So like when I show up, like for example, the other night when I showed up, like all the other promoters either hadn't gotten there yet or were already out. Right. At the door, like there's the door guys and stuff. There's the girl who like takes the tickets and everything. But those are the only people I really interact with at the club. Right. So I'm not necessarily like, I've met a few other people inside, like when I go in to use the bathroom and stuff. But for the most part, I'm not necessarily like, it's not necessarily the fast track to like meeting everyone at the club that like I thought it might be, if that makes sense. And obviously part of it's that I'm new and like I haven't been there that long and stuff. But I guess like my questions would be, my main question really is, one, how do I like go about trying to network with other people at the club I work at, right? Like, like bartenders and stuff. Like I've seen them around and when I walk through the club, but how do I like initiate that contact, especially when they're working and stuff, and then 2, how do I kind of use this to meet other industry people? Because I've met a few other promoters out on the street, like we kind of acknowledge each other, exchange a few words and stuff. When that first set I shadowed, Joel introduced me to some people and stuff, like girls sending out tickets and such. But how do I kind of...
The good news is like, it's there's a tightrope act of like, your goal isn't to be make the most money, like that. You don't really give a shit about that. Right. Like, so rather than like being out there hustling, trying to hit these numbers, right, you can be a lot more strategic about, all right, well, how should I actually use this time? Obviously you want to hit certain numbers, because then they'll think if you don't, they're gonna be like, this guy's a shitty promoter and we don't need him. Right. I'm guessing they're
yeah,
even
that's
if
the
they're
thing.
not
That's
taking tabs, they're still taking tabs mentally. Right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the one thing is like, especially for the first couple of nights, I wanted to like, I don't know, do well, I guess. Like I didn't want to come off as like,
Sure.
But,
so yeah, I think you played that right. Like you set the, you show them that you're a hard worker and doing this, but then I feel like the strategy that you took with your cohort, is it your cohort? Did I say that right?
yeah, like the group of people you're in.
The group in the grad school.
Yeah.
Basically like being a politician, kissing babies, shaking hands, just talking to everyone you can and be like, hey, I'm new here. Just started working. Like, what's up? Nick, and just asking for advice. Right. They say, ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, get money twice. Right. Just like asking everyone, like, do you have any recommendations for like, how, like asking the promoters, asking like your boss, like, how can I be the best promoter? Like just being that like hungry, person for knowledge and being really curious and not being like just owning that. Like, I want to crush at this. How can I do this? Cause that's like the team mentality. You know what I mean? That's
right.
They're going to appreciate that. I feel like.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Like,
That's actually does
that feel?
I was going to say
like
that's actually a helpful. Yeah. I mean, well, the one issue again is like people are like working and stuff. So obviously you don't want to bother them on the job.
Right.
And I'm especially talking about like the door people and everything. Like I kind of know them, my boss, like I've talked with a fair amount. It's more kind of like especially like the VIP hosts, like who I know work there, but they're like inside, they have their own tables and stuff. I don't interact with them at all, right? The bottle girls, I don't interact with them at all because I'm out on the street, right? And so I'm saying,
So one thing, it's like some of those people that you're recruiting, they could be bottle service customers, right?
Yeah, that's another question I have. That's one thing I'm trying to start to look towards how I can move towards, if that makes sense, is
Right.
bringing in bottle clients, because that's really that's the big thing, right? Because when girls, like, honestly, they come easy once you get to a certain point. It's really the bottle service clients. And so that's one thing I was going to ask about.
Well, you could position yourself like, so if you're just going after the low end door entry people, right? And you're positioning yourself, that's what you're selling with the tickets, right? Then that's going to come off as just like any other status level of a promoter, right? And that's the lowest level of promoter status, versus if you're a VIP host, there's nothing that's saying you can't go do that, right? You could be like, you could even just like, so you could potentially wear something a cut above of what the other promoters would wear, right?
Yeah.
And position yourself in that way to the people on the street. Like maybe you stop them and you're like, actually, by the way, like, I'm actually, I don't know the exact words for this, but it would getting them to realize like you're a VIP host and you could hook them up with a bottle service thing. And then having those conversations ahead of time, maybe with the bottle service girls, or being like, listen, my girl works in here. I can get you a special sort of hookup, even though maybe it's not a hookup, or maybe you could work at that deal with them, or with the other VIP host, and figuring out a way to like finagle a different level of status for yourself, where the people on the street feel like, "Ooh, I'm lucky to meet this guy," versus he's just some guy like trying to.
That's smart. Yeah. Positioning myself as a VIP host. I mean, realistically though, I feel like if they actually like knew, like most VIP hosts, like they don't walk the street. That's the thing. But I guess people don't know that. So, yeah, that's smart. I guess I should give any advice in terms of how to approach like my boss about, because like, so I was asking like, all right, so what's the deal with comp tables and stuff like that? And he was saying that for me personally, if I bring 6 girls, I'm good. Like if I ever want to do that, and that's something I'm going to look at trying to do like in the next week or so after Halloween, with just my core group, just to kind of get that going.
Right.
But I mean, in terms
if
of
you could
trying
just bring
to,
your own girls all the time, like that would bring more value, I think. Just showing the club that you have that ability and consistently doing that would be huge. That's going to get you a lot of props with all the other guys there. And then what was the other thing?
It was so on the street or whatever. You had the recommendation of like offering bottle service or whatever. Do you have any advice in terms of how to ask, like put feelers out about that, like with either with my boss or like with who would I go to ask about like offering bottle service, if that makes sense? Because like I know the prices and everything, but I don't know like if there's discounts I can offer and things like that.
Yeah, I would just ask your boss, be like, hey, listen, I didn't know what to do with this situation. I met these people on the street and they wanted to come to the club, but then they were asking me all about like bottle service and stuff like that, and I wasn't sure what to tell them.
Okay. Yeah. I think the thing is, I think this is a good idea. I think I'm gonna have to workshop this because like, honestly, even just getting people, like these are comp tickets, like people get into the club for free, and even that I'll hand out like 100, and like most of those people don't even show up, right? And she was trying to convert bottle service on the street when a lot of people already have like other plans, or they're like drunk and like doing all this weird stuff. It feels like it could be kind of a tough thing to pull off.
It could be. It could be. But it's all like, if you have to come from it, you have to effectively. I mean, you have the comp tickets already, so you can't start with the comp tickets and try to like upsell the bottle service. You have to
start with the bottle. You
have to kind of start with the bottle and be like, listen, if you're buying the bottle, like, I can get you tickets. It's like they don't need to know that they're comped. They're only comped because they're buying the bottle. Also, if you had a hot girl with you whenever you were doing any of this stuff on the street, that would be like a huge status booster.
Yeah, well, at least 2 of the, because I haven't met all of the promoters, honestly. Some of them are just always gone, but at least 2 of the promoters are girls who like work the street, and honestly, they do the best out of everyone. Like everyone's told me this. So yeah, I mean for sure, but I don't know that I'm gonna be able to convince a girl to like walk around with me for 3 hours, like on Friday night. Like I just doesn't seem. Seems like it could be a tough sell. At least. Well,
you could certainly do it with like a girl that you're hooking up with, as like a fun sort of, even like a date, right? If she loves you, she'll do whatever the fuck. Especially if you give her some money. right?
Okay.
It could
that's
be
actually
like,
interesting.
Yeah.
That's kind of smart. Okay.
yeah, and with the other girl promoters, you could be like, listen, I'll give you fucking 90% of the money, right? Because it's
Yeah.
in the beginning, who cares about the money, right? You're
Yeah.
not really doing it for the money. So
Uh-huh.
if you give away like a huge piece of the pie, then like you quickly kind of level up.
Okay. That's a good idea. This is very interesting. It's bizarre because so I hadn't really done too much with clubs specifically up to this point. So coming into this world and everything, it's like, oh, there's all these different kind of dynamics going on. So it's trying to find my lane in it.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
this
I mean,
is
I
always interesting to me because it's like there's so many ways that you like if you just do what you're supposed to do, you end up fucked, right?
Yeah.
Like with anything in life, right? But if you look for ways where you can kind of, cut corners and make the right moves, it's pretty easy to figure it out, I think. So
Okay.
yeah, I'd love to see just so I can follow along or anyone else in the group, if you could put some of the stuff in there in the Discord, that'd be awesome. And we can talk about the strategies a little bit more in depth.
Sure. Like,
Yeah,
like
Nick,
what aspect?
post pictures, dude.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then also keep us up to date on what you're doing with Instagram too, because that plays in huge.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm trying to work on a bit more. Like getting content and then like actually posting it is the big thing. I think I'm gonna be posting in the next couple of days, but I want to be more consistent with that because
You could even have a shtick. Oh, this is smart. You could even have a shtick where like you could start a channel, like a YouTube channel, like how to become a promoter, and you could film yourself doing this shit.
Yeah.
And like, I think it would be really viral content, and it would also give you status when you're approaching those people on the street. If you have like a camera or you're even holding a GoPro, like literally just like walking up to people like this, and like it changes the whole dynamic. So there's endless fucking things with that.
For sure. Yeah.
I know for sure that channel would be really interesting to guys. Like
there's nothing out there about this. Like
there's
no
nothing.
course on how to do it. There's no. Not even YouTube videos. Like I looked.
I know.
So
there's
weird.
nothing. Let's make them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had like one last kind of question. I'm blacking down. Well, it'll come. I can put it in the Discord, I guess. Yeah, I haven't really done too much with nightlife, to be honest with you. Like I've had friends and stuff who've been in it, but I've kind of stayed away, to be honest. I mean, yeah, like I'm excited in the sense that I think it gives like new opportunities and things like that, but definitely not something for the long term. Like already, like even just getting the job, man, it was like such a hassle. Like there's all this like shady, weird stuff that they do. Like for example, like the IG ad, for example, right, where like the open hiring event, they have like the address on there, and you pull up to the address, and it's just like this random. It's not where the actual club is. It's just like this random like office building place. There's supposed to be a code you use to get in, but no one gave me the code. I don't know how I was supposed to get the code. There was another guy who had been standing there and he didn't have the code, right? So apparently you were supposed to have like known someone in the club who would give you the code. We ended up waiting outside the door for like 30 minutes until someone came out to get in, right? And then once you go inside, there's this whole waiting area, and they have this wait. Literally, I waited for probably like an hour and a half for no reason. Like he wasn't the guy who was doing the interviews was just like making us all wait for like whatever reason. And it was like a power move or what. But and then just all this weird stuff like, and that's the one thing about nightlife that I'm still trying to figure out how to deal with, is like so much of it is like these unspoken rules that you're supposed to somehow know. So that's what's kind of interesting too.
Making you wait for an hour and a half sounds like something people would do at a frat.
Yeah. Oh, it's kind of hazing in a certain way. Yeah.
Exactly like hazing.
Yeah. I was just telling them about how like the process of getting the promoter job, and how there were all these like little weird hurdles that they put up in front of you, that you were supposed to, I guess, either like I've already known about in advance from a friend, or just like, I guess, put up with basically. So yeah, but I was just also saying that like life is so weird because there's all these kind of like unspoken rules or hidden ways you're supposed to do things that you're supposed to just know. And so that's part of what I'm trying to learn, I guess.
Yeah, it's like similar with dating, right? Like if you tell a girl you don't know what you're doing, she's like, well, what the fuck? You're supposed to know. That's your job as a man. Right? Yeah, that's it. So what did anything come of that meeting with Enrique? And
Oh yeah.
for you other guys. Enrique was in the group a long time ago. He's very much plugged into the San Diego nightlife scene. And so I connected him with Nick, and you guys met up, right?
Yeah, we did. We grabbed a drink. Yeah. It was the other week. Yeah, he's a super cool guy. We were just kind of chopping it up, talking about things. It was really helpful, especially because he has like a very, I guess, good knowledge of like all the different venues in the city. Like he recommended different spots I'd never heard of before. Also just like his mindset, like it seems like he also kind of had a bit of a journey like to get to where he is now in terms of like personal development and things. So yeah, super, super cool guy. We've been texting a bit back and forth and things. Like I think the biggest thing that came out of, or one of the biggest things apart from like advice and stuff that came out of my meeting with him, is I guess he knows, like, I don't know if it's the general manager or he knows someone at Oxford. And he's like always valid there. And so he was saying, if I ever have trouble in the future with that, he can help me out. So that's a tangible thing that I think really came out of it. That's good.
Nice.
So I'm looking at when I'm going to go back there. But the one thing is like, I'm trying to balance. So one thing I want to do is start to build relationships beyond just like the service level, like at different clubs. So that it's not just like I know a guy's name, but like he actually knows me, if that makes sense. And so to do that, I want to kind of go to the same places over and over. But then at the same time, one of the issues is that like, it's at this point for me, it's still a bit of a tough sell to get. I don't know that I could get the girls to go out to the same exact club with me like every weekend of the month. Do you know what I'm saying? Like part of, I think my value at this point is still the novelty that I bring them to different spots. I show them different places, like how kind of handle logistics and things. So I just feel that like for example, with the case of Bloom, I want to start bringing them to like a table, right? But I don't know that I can get them to do that every single weekend. Like I think it's going to get old. Like they're going to not want to do it. So I'm still like kind of in the early days of the relationship. So I want to balance like how I can use these friends to like achieve my own goals, but also like not sour the relationship, if that makes sense. So
yeah. So I mean, first of all, when they typically go out with you, is it understood that like they're going to get hooked up for drinks or anything, or are they occasionally paying? Or I mean,
no, they always pay. No, I don't pay for this. No,
of course, right? So they're assuming they're going to pay, right?
Yeah.
So it's a pretty easy pitch to be like, hey, let's go to Bloom because we don't have to pay for drinks there, right? Because you're getting hooked up.
Sure.
Yeah. So, but the problem is doing that every weekend, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're girl, like they like novelty, like that's just
exactly. So, but the beauty is, it's like usually my guess is like a lot of these girls have lots of other friends that aren't just in that program. So, you know, the network effect, you know, you bring one, you're going to meet two or three others, hopefully. And then you're going to meet more from them and more from them. So it's just like this exponential growth. And then, so you're not taking the same ones back out all the time. You're kind of rotating from it, you know?
That's what I'm really trying to build towards at this point, because like I said, so the first, I'd say like month and a half or so that I've been here, I've really been trying to focus in on like building up like a solid relationship. So it's actually like real and I can have them like for sure. At this point, I think I'm pretty good on that. Like literally like, so two of them the roommates that live downtown. And they're like, whenever you need, you can always crash on our couch if like you're out or whatever, even if we didn't go out with you. Like we have that kind of relationship at this point.
Nice.
So I feel good about that. And I feel that was worth sacrificing. Like, I guess I'm trying to play it very safe, if that makes sense. And I don't know if that's wrong or what, but I just don't want to mess that up. So up to this point, I feel I've been pretty.
Are you, Nick, are you hooking up with any of these girls?
No. No, they're for.
It's like, oh,
Sorry, you cut out. I couldn't really hear you. Would you say that?
no, that's all I was asking.
Okay, yeah, no. I mean, like,
I just, you hooking me up.
to be honest, like some of them are decent, but the thing for me is like, I'd rather use them and then get access. Like, I don't want to ruin many future opportunities for like one present opportunity, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think long-term here. And I feel like through them, I've been able to meet so many other people, have so many, like literally so many things that have happened to me wouldn't have happened. I've already gotten like comp table. I've gotten free entry. I got free dessert at some random restaurant we went to. That was kind of funny, but I've gotten so many things through them that I don't want to mess it up.
That's another thing. Is you can reach out to some of these restaurants and get comped meals, right? And so I would, if you can do that, right, then that's even bigger value that you can offer the girls. It's like, hey, let's go to dinner. You know, dinner's free, and you do that a couple of times, they'll follow you anywhere.
That's one thing I've heard about the comp dinner thing. I'm uncertain, like. it seems like that's a big thing in places like Vegas, New York, and things like that. But I also know in second tier cities, it's often not as something they're not as used to.
Right.
So I guess if I was going to ask, like, if you have any recommendations in terms of like venue selection for that, how to like frame it and things. I'm assuming I need maybe 5 or 6 minimum. Like the place where I got the free dessert, it was like Lumi. It's like a rooftop sushi place or whatever. And the host guy who walked us in saw it was me and like 7 girls. He was like, "Oh, what are you, Hugh Hefner or whatever?" He was just like, he's an old guy, but
Yeah.
he was like impressed or whatever. And at the end, he like sent us over some desserts. So that's the type of thing.
Oh, I
that
would reach out to that guy. Did you get his contact, or he's going to be there? I would go back to that guy and just be like, "Hey, listen, I'd like to bring more girls to your restaurant. I feel like it's good for them, good for you. Like, is there some sort of deal we could work out here?" And and odds are he knows people at other restaurants. I'm not sure exactly how to approach that conversation. I've never tried, but I know it exists, right? So
I know it exists as well. It just seems a bit more opaque to me than like the bottle thing where there's like a clear business model.
Well, any restaurant where there's a big patio, right? Where, like they want exposure. It's the same sort of deal with a nightclub. Like they want hot girls there. So when guys consider like buying a bottle and they see the hot girls at the tables, they're like, "Fuck, I gotta buy a bottle. Otherwise I have no access to those girls," right? Even though they still have no access. But so if there's a restaurant, like there was a place right next to Delilah's in LA, which is across from Laurel Hardware, which is a big club. Not a big club, but like a good club that's really tough to get into. And the French restaurant, like just down the street, would offer like promoter dinners because they knew that the people that were going to Delilah's would see that restaurant or they'd come there first, right? So I would look for like fancier restaurants that are close to the clubs.
Okay. Yeah. That's what the promoters take the girls to. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Or any restaurant where you see there's like a lot of hot girls there. Like, so like there's a few restaurants I know next to Oxford and, maybe even
it's all in that main area.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. I guess, maybe just one last thing, at least for me is, so one thing I'm noticing is like, obviously girls get you a lot of access and things like that, but there's also, I think.
Oh, wait, one sec. Hold on one sec, Nick. I got a message from Trevor. He's got to run in a second. Let me take his question and we'll go back to
for
you.
sure. Yeah, my bad.
No, you're good. Go for it, Trevor.
Cool. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, my question was just like, I think in Slido, it said like, is it good to play with the white tees and in order to get used to scoring low? And kind of like what I mean, I guess what I mean by
I like the analogy.
Yeah, like, is it worth it to like lower your standards? Because like obviously it would be sweet if I was like Drake and I was just getting a bunch of leads all the time that were all like 10s, but I'm not. And so, like a lot of my leads are like 6+, 7+, right?
Uh-huh.
Like even when I go like approach a girl, like a lot of the times, like she's way hotter than when I get up there in person and start talking to her.
Right. So are you asking like, I'm getting these girls, they're not quite obviously like girlfriend material, but
they're not my standards.
Still fun to fuck.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
like, do you think it's helpful to do that for your game as a whole, or like just do it if you want to and it's fun?
If it's a sort of situation, I mean, here's a problem is if you do that, right, you're inviting all this drama into your life from women who are there's going to be an investment mismatch, right? So you start fucking them, they're going to fall in love. There's going to be a breakup and you're going to be like, I just wanted to fucking anyways. It's a lot of work it's a lot of drama, right? For not that good of a payout.
Right.
So instead, like if you were to leverage those girls as friends, and like bring them to your shows, like do all the things to like seduce them without ever escalating and just build a connection. Like if you just keep doing that over and over, I feel like that network, kind of what like Nick's talking about, like that network will become incredibly valuable. The bigger that grows, the more valuable it becomes. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
And you have like, you're a musician, you're playing, like you have like a really obvious shtick, right? Like a thing to take them to, a thing to do, like a value to offer them. So,
Right. True.
you know, I would be thinking in that way versus, you know, and then eventually, like if they, some of these
So
girls
be
are going to
okay
be
with,
so, well, some of them are just going to be so horny for you anyways, because you're not trying to hook up with them. You're displaying so much status that they're just like, they're going to make it so easy where, you know, you wouldn't have to take them on a date. You wouldn't even have to try. And if you want to do that, you could, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I like that. Yeah. Maybe not worry as much about like, 'cause that's the thing. I'm like, man, if I keep my standards to like 8 and above, like I'm just not getting that many leads. So I'm not going to be like,
Well, if you get six sixes around, it's like the cheerleader effect, right? The 8's going to be like, whoa, that guy's with 6 girls.
yeah.
He must be cool. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shows a lot of status. If a girl shows up to your
like
show and there's, you know, 100 people in the audience and 90 of them are women, she's gonna be like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, that's true.
Right? It's just like,
like
getting that cheerleader effect. You know, Nick just described what happened. He was just walking down the street with six girls. Like, who knows how hot they were?
Yeah.
And the guy, you get the free dessert. Like, there's such,
Yeah.
like that's just
true.
have girls, have them there.
Yeah.
Your life will be good. You know?
Yeah, I like that.
These different things.
Yeah. So I guess my question was about situations or instances in which simply having girls isn't necessarily sufficient. So, like, for example, the club I work at, like, if you pull up with girls, like, you're probably going to be good. Like, it's just as like a random guy, because I'd say it's a bit more of like a tier 2 type of place, to be honest. But it seems like I've noticed that there are certain places or certain instances where you also need to like know someone on the inside, or you're just gonna have just such a hard time. And maybe that just speaks to the quality that I have right now. But I feel like this is also kind of a phenomenon too, where, so to give it an example, so this past Friday, after we went out, we wanted to go to this after hours place. It's called Mina's Lounge. I don't know if it was around back in the day, but it's like an after hours hookah spot. It's like the main place, like the main upscale place that people go to. And one of the girls actually recommended it. So we were going to like swing by or whatever. But then we pulled up, there's like a huge crowd outside. I go up to, eventually I get able to talk to the door guy. I'm like, hey, we got 6 girls. We're trying to come in, just smoke some hookah. You know, what's the situation? And he's like, I don't give a fuck about your girls, man. You know, I've got other people who have tables, like, can't help you, basically. And so in that situation, I'm like, I don't know really what to do. We ended up leaving, to be honest, because I wasn't trying to wait for like an unknown amount of time. But it just seems like in that situation, like obviously having girls didn't help. It's also kind of a bad look on me to like put them in that position. I'm like, they didn't really care, to be honest. Like it seemed it was fine. But I'm just thinking about how to avoid that sort of thing in the future where there's a place like that. Like what should I be thinking, or how should I be approaching trying to make a connection in a place like that?
I just would have approached it differently with the door guy.
Okay.
Right. I would have been like, hey, I know you guys aren't really like a club. But you know, what's the, I'd be like, can I ask a stupid question that it'll make me sound like an idiot? Like, what's the currency here? Like if you guys were a club and I told you I had, you know, 75 girls to bring in, would that matter? Would that help your business? Or are you just looking to sell tables at this point? And are you so full, like, you don't fucking give a shit and I'm just annoying you right now, right? I would say something like that. Just call it out.
Okay. Yeah. And to be clear, I wasn't like pitching. I was more like, there's a group of us, that's me and 6 girls here, and we want to go smoke hookah. I wasn't like trying to throw the girl. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Sure.
And that's what it seems like the situation kind of is it's more, it's like a nightclub, hookah, lounge, fusion type of place. But it seems to be this spot where people go after hours. And so it seems like it's also open like before, and it's like there's like bottle service and things like that. But it just seems like a place where you have to like know a guy, I guess, like late at night at that kind of time of night. And so I'm wondering
that's why like kind of making yourself vulnerable and playing stupid, but in a fun, calibrated way. You can make a connection like that with that guy, like in the moment. Be like, hey man, can I ask like a really maybe dumb question, but maybe cool question? Like just phrasing it like that, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, this is interesting, right?
Yeah.
And And you can be like, I'm new to the city. I'm kind of like a promoter, but I'm, I'm also like, like depending on how busy he is, obviously you might not want to fuck his brain, but like, I would focus on like getting advice from this guy while still figuring out what's the best move, and then trying to be cool with him will take you a long way with door guys.
Okay.
And then even like giving that guy $20 at the end of the conversations, being like, thanks, man. I really appreciate the advice. Shaking his hand, giving him $20. He's going to remember you. Like, okay. I'm Nick. I'll what nights do you work? You give him $20, he'll love you. Next time you show up, he'll fucking love you. He might even let you in right then and there. Right. Cause you're just like, you're asking for his advice. You're hooking him up with money. Right. Like that's already wildly different than everyone else he's talked to that night. You're shaking his hand, you're remembering him. He's going to remember you. Next time you show up there, like it's done.
Okay. And would you say, so when I initiate a conversation, or when I have a conversation with a door guy and I tip him at the end, does that run the risk of putting me into the wrong frame where there's an expectation that I tip him like every time in the future?
No.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I still would probably, because he's going to be hooking you up big time. But then you'll be like talk to him next time, like, like the relationship will develop, and then the tipping will no longer be needed, or it'll just be like he's going to hook you up so hard. He's going to get you free drinks. Like it's like, I always just try to just like give. Cause usually like people will give back so much because that value exchange, everyone's very clear on that. Like when you get a gift from someone, you always feel like you want to give them a gift back. Right. So I found that just being like over generous with those people has gotten me nothing but, huge benefits.
Okay. That's helpful. That makes sense. Yeah. I think one thing I want to work on refining is like this art or the skill of kind of working with door people, building that relationship. Cause like, it's one thing to kind of know their name and exchange a few back and forth or whatever, but I think it's another thing to, I guess, one, make an impression, and two, kind of extract the right sort of information in the right sort of way. So that's one thing I'm also looking at as well, but that's helpful. Okay.
Yeah. Well, anytime you ask people for advice, people love to give advice, right? Because they get to feel smart and savvy and all those things. And then you give them money afterwards, which they're not expecting. They're going to really love that too. And then the next time you go, you make it a point to like, ask them how they're doing, how you been, blah, blah, blah. Like, so they remember you. The other thing I like to do with door guys, depending on the situation, is like, I'll ask them what they like to drink and I'll bring them a drink. And even though they might not be able to drink it like on the street, I'll like be like, hey, I left your drink like right there. Right. And I'll buy them drinks, and they fucking love that. And then like, I also know what they drink. So that's huge. And then I'll make it also a point to go out and like shoot the shit with them and talk to them. Cause a lot of the time that's where the smoking patio is. There's people hanging out there, and it's a good place to actually like to hang. So,
okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I really, and these door guys will fucking love you. Like, this is the stuff the stuff I want you guys to lean in on. This is obviously approaching helps, and it feeds into this too, but there's all these other things that you can do that I outlined. So if any of those like sounded good, by all means, start there. Start with the ones that seem fun and easy, and it'll just keep unfolding from there. Cool, guys. Good hanging, and see you on Tuesday or Monday for the intergame call. See you mañana. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you're a regular listener and you're digging our content, do me a favor, leave us a 5-star review. It's how other people learn about the show and how we can spread the word. If you don't feel like it's worthy of 5 stars, just go ahead, don't leave any review at all. And I want to let you know that we've opened up a few slots in our exclusive community. We're accepting applications to join our select group of men and experience the radical power of accountability, step up your game, cross everything off your sexual bucket list, and become a beast at accomplishing all of your goals. To learn more and apply, go to innerconfidence.com/community.